Thank you. Question for you. How many of you have ever become so stressed out at work that you lost sleep? Or maybe so busy that you barely had time to breathe? Perhaps you were so burnt out you had very little time for any other life-giving activities. Or even maybe you're so overwhelmed that you sometimes wondered the meaning and purpose of your life. If you said yes to any of these, you're not alone. Today, nearly 80% of the workforce report moderate or greater levels of stress in their work. 76 report how work-related stress has had a negative impact on their personal relationships. 66% report that they routinely lose sleep as a result of stress at work, and 20% say that they've even had to quit a job because the stress became so overwhelming. And now, the World Health Organization reports that stress and burnout have reached epidemic levels in our cultures today. Hi, I'm Dr. Carol Grojean, and I'm a social scientist passionate about human culture in organizations. I have nearly 3 decades experience leading large organizational transformations and re-engineering billion-dollar product releases. I also hold 3 master's degrees and a PhD in organizational performance, leadership development, and cultural transformation. But in 2014, I had an existential crisis of meaning and purpose. I was in the middle of a $7 billion merger when I snapped. I couldn't take it anymore. I was so stressed, so burnt out, so frustrated that I walked out of the meeting and I quit my job. And I spent the next 4 years traveling around the world. I wanted to study and understand rites of passages, cultural ceremonies, and indigenous practices. I began to deeply question the values of my culture and became passionate to understand how can we run our organizations more like a cultural ceremony than a soulless scorecard. In 2018, I re-entered the workforce in Microsoft's cloud and quantum computing organization to help drive culture change. For nearly 3 years, what I experienced was a culture of increasing pressure to do more with less time. Fragmented and disruptive work practices, and an overwhelmed human caught in the middle, swimming in the hormones of stress. As I looked around at other human systems of work, I saw much of the same. It appeared to me that the notion of thriving in a supportive, nurturing, caring organization was far from the human experience in our postmodern world of work today. So I spent that 3 years diving deeper on human behavior and the neuroscience behind the impact of this way of living and working, and what is it having on our culture. And what I discovered is that really the question in front of us today is, what does it mean to be human in a digital world? And how do we unlock our capacity for a purposeful and meaningful life in the work that we do? So why is this important? Well, as futurist Ray Kurzweil argues, we're in an age of acceleration. And by that he means that the models underlying the fabric of our culture are going to be redefined as a result of the exponential technology growth we find ourselves immersed in today. This growth is going to require a human resiliency and adaptability that far exceeds any transformation of our culture to date. Yet, there's a mismatch between this pace of change and our ability to keep up and adapt, let alone thrive. Instead, we're becoming overwhelmed because we're operating at a pace that's faster than our brains and our nervous systems were designed for. Add to this the plethora of research that states what we focus on day after day changes the structure and the function of our brain. And if we're practicing interruptions, distractions, stress, overwhelm, 8 to 12 hours a day, 5+ days a week, year after year, not only are we unconsciously degrading the performance of our brain, but we're degrading our capacity for creativity, novel thought, and connecting with another. The very things that give us joy and awe in life. If you think about it, most people spend a large portion of their life in their workplace. And if they're unhappy, if they're competitive, if they're stressed, overwhelmed, and burnt out at work, then it's highly likely that they are unhappy, competitive, stressed, overwhelmed, and burnt out in their homes and in our communities. Because as humans, our nervous systems don't have the capacity to shift gears like a machine. And if our capacity to connect and to create meaning with another breaks down, our culture breaks down, both at work and in our societies. So where do we begin to transform our culture? Well, it starts with ourselves and our passions. It's a thing scientists call intrinsic motivation. It comes from within and it's limitless. We seek it for its inherent reward and for its guaranteed delivery of happiness and overall greater sense of well-being. You see, what so many leaders seem to be misunderstanding, that work is not about the paycheck we collect or the titles we achieve. Work is about the purpose and meaning of our heart's desires, met by the value we create when we apply our skills and unlock our potential to something we are passionate about. People are yearning for purpose and meaning in their work. In a world that's become so lean, we seek to eliminate even the most basic of human needs. Our need to ourselves, our need to each other, and to the larger world around us. So where do we go to reawaken our heart's desire, to learn something new, to create something meaningful, and to unlock our fullest potential? Fortunately, developments in positive psychology are revealing insights into what states define optimal well-being for humans. And developments in neuroscience are providing tangible ways for us to train our brains and our bodies for optimal performance. I don't mean this in the cyborg kind of way. Rather, how to get our biology to work for us instead of against us, resulting in a game-changing approach to human potential. So what about me and my passions? What I've learned on my journey is that cultural transformation, it's not a job. It's a ceremony. It's a rite of passage. It's an invitation for us to slow down, sit together in a circle, hear each other's story, and weave the larger truth of who we are becoming and what do we need to do today to address the challenges that might lie ahead of us together. When we create the environments which foster the right conditions for all members to give their best each day, they're committed to their organizational goals and values. They're motivated to contribute to their team's success, and best of all, they have a greater sense of their overall well-being and purpose for life, all of which yields a much happier, much healthier, much more engaged human at work, in our homes, and in our societies, all enabling us to transform our cultures together. That's me, this is my passion, and this is my purpose. Thank you.